Hello, today we're going to have a look at using Brusho thickener. It's made by Colourcraft, the same company that make the Brushos themselves. I've not used it before, so this is a first for me. So you've firstly got to mix it together. Now it says on here 20 grams into 600 mils of water. So as you can see, I've already got my water ready there. And I did measure out 20 grams into this little tub up at home because I've not got any scales down here. So that's measured out ready. So the rest of the Brusho, thickener, I'll pop into there to keep for another time. And actually I've spilt some there, so let's get that scooped up into there as well. Okay, so I'll keep that nicely for another time and keep it dry and airtight. So like I say, it's got it on the front there, it tells you 20 grams to 600 mils, and it says on there for transparent glazes and printing. So the reason I got it in the first place was this is the leaflet that comes with your Brusho when you buy the box of Brushos, and it's got ideas inside about how to use your Brusho, and here it says use thickened Brusho on glass or acetate to create a monoprint. See overleaf for how to thicken Brusho, and then there you go, on the back it's got the full instructions on how to use the thickener. Now I don't normally do printing, so I'm not sure how I'm going to use it yet, but actually on here it says we've got to leave it for 24 hours until it's thick enough. So it will be actually tomorrow when I come back and do something with it. So we'll mix it up now, and then we'll come back tomorrow and do something on here, have a bit of a play with it. So it says sprinkle the 20 grams into the water. You might not be able to see that, I'm not sure, and then, oh, it's gone into quite a solid lump there, and it says you've got to stir it very vigorously to stop it going into a lump. Maybe I should have brought a whisk. Right, as you can see, that's not as easy as it looks. It's still full of lumps and my arm's about dropping off. I'm just wondering whether I should have sprinkled it a little bit more gently and done it a little bit at a time rather than chucking the whole lot in and then whisking up. I mean, I suppose alternatively you could use an electric whisk for it. But yeah, my arm's going to drop off before I've got rid of all those lumps. So it says stir very briskly to prevent lumps, which I've done and I've still got lumps, and leave for at least 24 hours before using until the thickener has been absorbed by the water. So I suppose if it's all going to be absorbed by the water, hopefully those lumps won't be there tomorrow. Okay, so I'll be back tomorrow to see how this goes. Okay, so we've left it for 24 hours. After I switched the camera off yesterday, I kept stirring it. You could tell I was having trouble getting rid of those lumps. When I stirred it, as soon as I stopped stirring again, there was more lumps. So eventually I just gave up and left it. And now it seems that most of those lumps have dissolved, and there is 1 or 2 lumps in it still. So now, as you can see, it's very much like wallpaper paste, that kind of consistency. Okay, but 1 or 2 lumps still in there. So whether I should have, like I said, sprinkled it on a bit more slowly and mixed it in gradually rather than just chucking it all in at once, or whether I should have used an electric whisk or a whisk rather than a fork, I'm not sure. But it's okay, gloopy is the word I would use. So I would like to see a little bit more information about how to use it really and what its uses are. On the packet itself, all it says is for transparent glazes and printing. And in the Brusho leaflet, all it says is it can be used to create a monoprint. So that's the only information we have. So first of all, I thought, well, I'll try and use it for a transparent glaze and see what happens. Then I thought we might try and use a coloured glaze. And it doesn't actually say how long it takes to dry either, so that will be interesting to see. So it may be a case of me having to come back again tomorrow. So this is one I did a few weeks ago. I'll put the link to this picture up here actually if you haven't seen it. And I might be about to wreck it, but that doesn't matter. And I'm just going to put a glaze on that. Actually, I've forgotten my brushes, so I'll just go and get a brush. Okay, so I'm assuming I'm just going to put it straight on from the pot as it is, a bit like you would do a varnish. Like I say, there's no instructions, so we're just guessing here, and look how it's falling off. I'll do it perhaps in the centre where you might be able to see more. It doesn't seem to be lifting the Brusho from underneath, which is good. And we'll just do that half of the painting and perhaps try and put a coloured glaze on this half of the painting. You can see there, that's lifting some of that colour up where it was more still in a powdery form, really. So you're going to have to do this very carefully, putting a glaze over there. Again, you can see how it's lifting it, whereas here where it's more, the Brusho's more dispersed, it's not going to lift it the same. So that's one thing you're going to have to be aware of, really. If I was putting a varnish on, I might go over quite a few times in different directions to get it nice and flat. You're going to have to be really cautious about doing that with this, as using it as a glaze. Again there, so it's where I've had more of the powdery Brusho as opposed to where it's dissolved more into the water, like these areas here. Again, you can see it there moving. So that's even with me. Whenever I've finished a Brusho work, I always blow off any excess powder, make sure there's no loose pigments on there. So even having done that, it's still picking that up with that thickener that we're using as a glaze or a varnish. Okay, so I'm not sure what that's going to look like once it's dry. Whether it then means it's not going to move anymore, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see how long it takes to dry. So for this second half, I thought we'll maybe do a coloured glaze to alter the colours. So I'm going to get some of the thickener out of the jug and just put a tiny touch of Brusho in and give it a good mix up and see what that does. So getting it stirred so that the colour's even, so you can, I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but it's a very pale yellow we've got there, just to alter and warm these colours up on this side, and then we'll be able to see if it's different to the other side. So if anyone knows how we are supposed to be using this other than the instructions on the leaflet that I've got there, and I'm doing it all wrong, please do let me know, because I haven't a clue what I'm doing, but I just thought I'd have a little go with it. So I'll put that to one side. You can see that that's got the yellow in it, and this side hasn't, but you can also see it's doing the same thing, picking up these colours and making these streaks. Probably not a bad thing if I got them all going in the same direction and it was adding to the painting, but I don't think it particularly is. So we'll leave that, and what kind of finish it's going to leave, I don't know. It might leave a glossy finish, or it may not. Okay, so I'll leave that one for now, and then we'll have a go with the printing. Okay, so like I said yesterday, I don't do any printing. I don't know anything about printing. It's not my thing, but I'm just going to see what effects we can get with this thickener. So popping a bit into these little tubs. Sorry, you can't see that what I'm doing, I mean, it's very, very strange stuff. And put plenty of colour in there. This is sunburst lemon that I'm putting in. And I'm going to make 3 colours up. So the second one, I wonder if it'll tip out actually, that might be easier, yeah. Turquoise. and ultramarine. Okay, and I'll give those a quick mix. Give my brush a clean off in between. I'm hoping that this stuff doesn't wreck your brushes. I'm assuming that it washes out of your brushes easily, but we'll see. Fantastic colour, that turquoise Brusho, isn't it? And some of the ultramarine. Okay, so we've got three nice colours there. And I'm going to do something on this glass, I don't know what. Okay, so I'll have a go with these spatulas for popping it on, and it's just going to be completely abstract and random. Okay. Possibly a bit more yellow. Going to turn into green in places. Let's see if I'm about making some patterns in that. That's quite a lumpy bit there. Get rid of that. Okay, so we've got a nice bit of an abstracted pattern there. And let's see what happens if we turn that over and pop it onto the paper. I'll just move that across, I'm hoping you can see. And we'll just lift it off without moving it sideways, hopefully just lift it vertically straight off. Whoops. Okay. So, I think the interesting thing is going to be to see if it dries with a glaze actually. It'd be quite nice that with those Brusho colours, if it dries with a slight shiny glaze to it. I'll just do another one with this last little bit that's left on here. Again, carefully lift it up. And we've got a completely different picture there because of course it was running out of the thickener. So with this one I'm going to just have a go and see what happens if we sprinkle some extra Brusho into it, see what effects we get then, if it disperses out into that thickener or not. So that's a little bit of the lemon on this half, or quite a lot of the lemon should I say, and some of this beautiful turquoise on the other side. And see what happens as that dries, see if it moves any more into that thickener. Okay, so I'll be back with you as soon as these have dried and the butterflies dried, and see what effects we have with those. Okay. Okay, well it's taken several hours for that to dry. I think probably the best advice would be for you to leave it overnight. I did have it right next to the heater, and even so it took about 4 or 5 hours to dry. So with this one I was right in thinking that I'm not going to be overly impressed with it as a glaze because of where it's picked the Brusho up, and you can see the Brusho, particularly where it was heavier on the paper, it's really picked the pigment up, and these colours have changed altogether to the original. It's a lot softer than it was because they've melted into that Brusho thickener. So although it says use it as a glaze on the packet, I'm not quite sure how they were intending that to be used, because I wouldn't use it over Brusho like this because it's picking up the pigment. It's left a nice finish. I don't know if you can see, it's actually quite sort of sheeny. So it probably be okay on Brusho where you've done a whole painting like this without any larger, darker areas. But even so, I wouldn't want to risk doing a really nice painting and then going over the top and this lifting the colour up. You can see by putting that yellow in the glaze that it's given it a warmer colour on that side. So, you know, again, you could use it for a glaze. Whether you could paint on top of it, I mean, that might be one use for it. Perhaps if you covered your paper in it first of all and then painted on top of it, I'm just wondering if it would stop it sinking into the paper quite so much. So maybe that's something for us to try another time. But yeah, you can see where I've brought the brush down there, you can see all the way down, it's dragged that colour up. But you can see it's not going to drag anymore now, and it's not coming off. It's nice and dry, and it, like I said, it does have a really nice feel to it actually. You can't see that on the camera, but it's really smooth. Yeah, so, and it's kept the colours apart from the fact that it's moved them. So I'll put that out of the way. It's worked more successfully on this one. So like I say, I'm not a printer, I don't do any printing, but if you do printing and stamping, then I would think it'd be something that you might like to get into. So this is the one, the first one, no, this was the first one I did, wasn't it? And again, it's a lovely finish to it. I really like how smooth it is. And if you can see, it's got a little bit of a shine on it, a bit of a glisten, but really nice finish that. Not, I would say it's satin more than either matte or glossy. I would say it was somewhere in between, a bit of a satin finish. This is the one where we did it and then sprinkled some Brusho into it afterwards, and again it's got that nice finish. It's got one or two bits of Brusho on the top that need brushing off, but yeah, it's sunk in and given us that nice finish. It's perhaps not moved out into the liquid as much as it would just with water, so we end up with a little bit of a more dotty effect. I quite like this area here. I don't know if you can see that close up, you know, where the yellows, the colours are separating. So yeah, really nice. I quite like that one. And then this was the bit where we just popped the cling film on. Again, I love the finish, and those three colours together are really nice, aren't they? So yeah, you could have a play around with it, using it for printing, or even just doing something like this, just dotting it on your page, putting cling film on it, using your spatula to make shapes in it, leaving it to dry, and then you could paint something over the top of it. Okay, so yeah, I think it'd make a really nice background actually. You know, you can imagine if you did the whole page in these muted colours and then painted something dark on top of it maybe, or just did a drawing on top of it. Yeah, so I can see that it has its uses. Like I say, I'm not happy with the way that the colours have gone on that one. So really I'd be interested to know from Colourcraft what their intention for the uses, because looking at the instructions on the packet and the instructions in the Colourcraft's Brusho box, there isn't really much to tell you why you're using it and what you're getting out of using it that you couldn't get without it. So that would be, you know, interesting to know from their perspective how we're supposed to be using it. Maybe I've missed that information somewhere, I'm not sure. Like I say, if you know how to use it and I've done it all wrong, pop that in the comments below. Also, if you've got some and you have a go with it, let me know how you get on. Maybe we'll come back to it again another day. I'll perhaps do a background and then see how it sits on top of that background. I'm assuming now that that's sort of set in a way. If we paint on top of it, it isn't going to lift those colours up. So that might have been a way to do this one, do the whole thing using the thickener and then put a glaze over it. Maybe that's how it's intended to be used, I'm not sure. Okay, so I hope that was useful and interesting to you. And have fun with your brochures, and thank you once again for watching, and bye for now.